Well, good morning, everyone. We get together most weekday mornings, Mondays through Fridays at 8 o'clock Central, to gather and talk about raising capital for small businesses. But more practically than that, we're going to literally go through a checklist together, which is what it takes to have a fundable business. Because I bet you see the same thing that I see and I hear. There's lots of business owners that need money to start or grow a business. It's a widespread issue. However, most of them do not have a fundable business. So they're missing an important step. They don't qualify. And in some cases, they don't understand what it takes to qualify. So that's exactly what we're going to talk about here today. So if you're an entrepreneur yourself looking for capital, welcome to the webinar. We'll give you some very transparent, objective, practical information of how to qualify for funding with certainty. Alternatively, if you are a current or prospective referral partner, welcome as well. This is a great way that you can go out, help improve financial literacy in your community, and earn extra income. So we are on the chapmanloanprogram.org website. If you were referred by one of our referral partners, you'll want to follow up with them after today's Zoom. If not otherwise, you'll come back to chapmanloanprogram.org and I'll show you how to get started. So we're talking about the Startup Business Funding Package. As many of you know, we applied for and received the grant. And the grant was designed to provide a solution to that problem, helping small businesses qualify for funding, business funding, not personal funding. And so, in fact, what we have is a turnkey resource that positions the business for fast funding. As we go through this, if you have questions or concerns or comments, go ahead and type it into the Q&A. It's kind of like a chat box of Zoom. So these bullets are essentially a checklist. And I would encourage you, if you are an entrepreneur, go ahead and get a piece of paper and a pencil out, and you can go through and determine, are you compliant or are you incompliant on each of these? If you can answer yes to each of these, which I'll go through and describe the what and why it's important. But if you can answer yes to each of these bullets, you are ready to go to funding right now. And you should be able to qualify for a lot of funding. And if you need help with that, just scroll down again on the Chapman Loan Program page, scroll down. No upfront costs, no hard inquiries, and we'll go to funding for you today. We'll get you funding offers today. But alternatively, as we go through this, if you're not able to answer yes to each of these, then we have a problem that needs to be resolved. And really, there's two practical ways to resolve that problem. One of which is fix the line item, whatever is the issue, which we'll go through in detail, or you're more than welcome to participate in the grant, participate in the Startup Business Funding Package, and we'll provide this entire spectrum. That's what the grant does. So without any more ado, let's drill into the bullets, because the bullets are not sales points. They're not marketing. They're literally, it's literally the checklist of what a small business needs to be credible for funding. So bullet one, the first thing that we need to have is a credible, unique business address. So let's describe the what, and then we'll describe the why. Because if you don't understand both, it probably won't resonate with you. So what is a unique commercial business address? It's an address that's in the Postal Service database, the USPS database, that shows lenders that you're at a commercial location, not at a residential, not at a post office box, and certainly not at a shared virtual address. We talked to many clients. They've gone out to a Regis or WeWork, and we have nothing negative to say about them, but they're signing up and spending money on a shared address. The suite number that they have is the same that other businesses have. That doesn't work. And I'm going to show you with more detail today than ever why that's so relevant. But I'll describe it generally and then I'll show you. So having a unique business address is the most fundamental element of business credibility. It doesn't matter, frankly, what you think, if you believe that's important or not. It doesn't matter what I think, if I think it's important or not. But from a lender's perspective, we're going to have a very difficult, if not impossible, time to go get a large amount of funding if we don't have a real commercial address. Let's dive a little deeper and I'll show you what that means. So I'm going to flip over to our other resource page, which is cheapbusinessaddress.com. Just for your reference, the first bullet and the last bullet without, not including the middle bullets, are available here on Cheap Business Address, but it has some content. It makes it easy for me to share with you what I'm trying to point out. So we talked about the importance of having a unique address, but what does that really mean? How do we prove up? In legal terms, they call it proving up or proving. How do we have evidence, documentation that we really have a true, unique commercial address? Is it we just say that we do? No. We have to be able to prove it up. What does that mean? We have a real lease. A lease that meets the lender's criteria. And I'll show you. So if you do this, you can come over here and click here and I'll pull it up. So what our team has put together is a thorough lease agreement that has all the standard language. It's 25 pages long. So this way you have a lease that you're able to give to the lender to show that you have a commercial address and it's a legitimate one. It has all the language that would be needed to validate that you have an address, because they want to see that you have an address and proof of it. Also, it includes the landlord's lien waiver, which is huge. This allows the lender to have first priority over your assets which are in your office. Now, granted, we're providing a virtual office, so you probably won't have any assets in a virtual office, but we know what lenders are looking for, and this is a document that's needed 9 out of 10 times. So the point is, we're providing the entire spectrum so you have a credible business address. Okay, so that's number one. How much does that cost to get a unique address? It's free through the grant. Second thing that we're going to do is file with the Secretary of State to create the new business. Now you might say, whoa, I already have a business. Well, if you already have a business, then you wouldn't need this step. But this is one of the steps of the startup package. We find for many clients, it's easier to form a new business for the specific purpose of a capital raise than it is to go fix something that is messy. However, you need to have a business that's in good standing with the Secretary of State. And if you decide to participate in the startup business funding package through the grant, then we provide that. If you already have a business, it's okay. You don't have to change the business you already have. We always use Elon Musk as an example. He owned Tesla and then he went out and bought Twitter. Did he have to sell Tesla when he bought Twitter, which is now known as X? No. You can own multiple businesses. We could use this one for your capital raise if you wish. So free address, free filing with Secretary of State because of the grant. Next, we're going to get the EIN through the IRS, then open the business bank account. Now we got to roll up our sleeves, because now we've got the foundation of a credible business, but it's not ready for funding. So we're going through this checklist of what any entrepreneur would need to have to be ready for business funding. So building business credit, we'll talk about what, and then we'll talk about the why/how we do that. So from the what perspective, building business credit is important because it shows the world that the business pays its bills, just like personal credit, which we're not worried about in this. But personal credit shows how you paid your bills. Separate that. Business credit shows how the business has paid its bills. So even though we have a brand new business, we can quickly add primary trade lines. Primary trade lines added under the EIN so the business looks credible. So you might ask, well, how do we do that? Well, there's different ways. We'll have an interview with you and determine what type of trade lines you want to add. It could be a real estate trade line. It could be a company vehicle trade line. It could be business credit cards. It could be little net 30 accounts. We'll work with you on what it is that you want for your business, but we're going to add primary trade lines so we have at least an 80 Paydex score, at least an 80 Intellis score with Experian business. So that's very important. Now, to accomplish this, you might say, why don't we just go right to the fourth bullet? Because we need these underlying elements to be able to do this. If we don't have this in place, then this isn't going to happen. We're not going to be able to get trade lines under the EIN. After that, then what we need to do, our last step, is we need to transfer assets so the business has strong financials. And I'll be more specific. We need to make sure that the balance sheet of this new business looks strong and has collateral for funding. You might say, well, that's impossible, right? It's a brand new business. It's not going to have any collateral. That's a horrible way to look at it. That's not going to get you funded. What we're going to do is we're going to transfer over those assets to your balance sheet, to the new business's balance sheet. And guess what? Now we have collateral for funding. That's important. Remember, we learned in school about the 3 C's: credit, collateral, and capacity. So credit, we're building here. Collateral, we're adding here. You might say, well, wait, what about that capacity, the 3rd C? We're going to help you liquidate those assets. They come in the form of receivables. We're going to help you liquidate those receivables. Liquidate. So now you have the cash deposits into your business bank account. That's wonderful. We just signed a new version of the LOI, letter of intent, to purchase a collection agency. We worked through an M&A, merger and acquisition broker, identified a pretty large, very, very established collection agency. So in our world, we're buying a collection agency. Well, why would we want to do that? Well, it brings us a big business with lots of staff and office and all that. But also it provides an even better ability for us to do what? To help our clients liquidate the receivables that they're getting for free. It's outstanding. So once we have these 5 bullets, now we have a credible business ready to go to funding. We have credit, we have collateral, we even have capacity. So life is good. Now we can go to funding. Where could we go to funding? Well, when we have a credible business, we could go lots and lots of places because we've met the underlying requirements. We have a credible business. One unique source of funding is called the Chapman Fund. The Chapman Fund is probably different than anything you've ever heard of before. We don't need to go to a bank to apply. We don't have to go through that underwriting process. We don't have to go to a credit union. We certainly don't have to go to some alternative lender that might have high interest rates. Instead, the Chapman Fund is through a taxing authority. They have money set aside to fund the startup and growth of businesses. It's like perfect. So that's what we're able to do because we have geographic accessibility to it. Most things in life have pros and cons, as we often talk about. So the Chapman Fund is great. Some say it's the best thing since sliced bread, but it's not all perfect. It's not. The Chapman Fund has a hard cap of $250,000. But the good news is we can use this as the first tranche and then go for a subsequent tranche afterwards of a much larger amount from a different lender, SBA or non-SBA. So this gives us the checklist that each of you, if you are a prospective client, you're an entrepreneur, you can ask yourself very objectively, is your business ready for funding? Do you have a unique business address? Are you in good standings with the Secretary of State? Do you have a strong established business credit profile? Do you have a balance sheet that has collateral for funding? Do you have adequate liquidity? If you don't answer yes to all of those, we need to fix it before we go to funding. Now, either you can fix it, which I pretty much showed you how to do it, or we can do it for you with a turnkey program, no risk, absolute certainty that it'll work. And that's what we call the Startup Business Funding Package. Now, a few of you might say, hey, I've got this covered. I've got everything in line. Well, great. You can still go to the chapmanloanprogram.org, scroll down a bit, and we can go to funding today for you. Today. Come down here, click on this. Oh, I can click on it for you. It'll pop up, and it's a simple one-page app. No hard inquiries, no upfront cost. Ask information about the business if you have it. If you don't, you can leave that blank, and then information about the key person, the owner. And then we'll get you offers. You can accept the offers you want, decline those you don't. Alternatively, let's say that you say, hey, I don't really have a business that's ready yet. I like this. I want to enroll in this. Great. You got a two-step process. Step one is to watch the training video. Step two is to enroll. That's fine. But we can immediately, once we get you enrolled, we can go ahead and immediately go after, again, what we call first tranche financing. How do we do that? Exactly what I just showed you. It's right here. It'll pull up this link, fill this out. You might say, well, I don't have all of this yet, right? Just enrolled in the program. That's fine. This is all optional. We can get offers on the personal information initially, and then in 30 to 60 days, build this out and then go after business funding. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, this is the time to go ahead and type it into the Q&A. It's like a chat box of Zoom. The other thing I needed to share with you, they give me this checklist I have to go through, are the resources. So you have the link to become a client, and frankly, this is the same link as step 2. And did I show that to you? I don't know if I showed it to you or not. Let's click on it so you see it. Very, very simple. Has a little flyer, initial off, and we can get you plugged in. Crazy simple. Second resource was, we've talked about the application for getting financing, and that's something we could do up front. We could do that after we've enrolled in the startup program, or if you don't need the startup program, we can skip this if you're already credible and go right to funding. So we've covered that, I think. We have additional training, including funding success stories. So that's the third bullet. And then if you're looking to become one of our distribution partners, that's the fourth bullet, or fourth link, I'm sorry, not a bullet. So real simple, one pager, chapmanloanprogram.org. Let's get into the questions, comments, concerns that any of you have. All right, so it looks like Eric is asking, how many times can we do this? And yeah, we do have clients that enroll multiple times for multiple projects. In fact, a different Eric, we have multiple Erics on today. One of our other Erics has a client, Khalid, who is going through multiple capital raises right now. So that is perfectly fine. Great question, Eric. All right, Robert's asking the next question, can we use this to buy existing businesses? Absolutely. And in fact, we work with an M&A team, merger and acquisition team, as I made reference to earlier, that we're working with to acquire that big collection agency. But we have a team available that if there's a specific business that you want to buy, we can facilitate that. Or let's say that you want to buy, I'll just make something up. You want to buy a car dealership, but you don't know of one for sale. Our M&A team will literally call on car dealerships that meet your criteria in terms of size, location, what have you, and go solicit for them to sell to you. So yes, in short, yes, we can absolutely, Robert, use this to start new businesses, or we can have this to have the infrastructure to go acquire existing businesses. All right, and then Trevor's asking, can we use this to buy franchises? Yes, much the same. So yes, so once we have a credible business that you're operating under, now we have many options. We can get money to grow it. We can get money to buy an existing business. We can get money to buy a franchise. all of those are optional. All right, Denise is asking about the grant, and so that's my fault, Denise. So you should see, and I can make it a little bit bigger, so maybe that'll help. That's probably the problem here. What the grant covers. So Denise, do you see free, free, oh, free, free? So I want to make sure you all see that. Thank you, Denise, for asking for that. All right. Looks like Misty has a question. Let me make this a bit smaller. It just gets disorienting to me to make it that large. Okay, so Misty has a question asking about kind of the difference between the cheap business address and the whole startup program. And I probably confused you, so that's my fault. So if you take, let's say that someone just wants the first bullet and the last bullet. That's all they want. So they don't need help forming a business. They don't need an EIN. They don't need a new bank account. They don't need business credit. They don't need assets. They don't need all of that. All they need is the business address and geographic access to the Chapman Fund. Then we can go right to cheapbusinessaddress.com. A little bit of a description, kind of confirms what we just said, and it's real simple. Click right here to get that started. And I think I clicked on that earlier, right? Yeah, because this is it for the cheap business address. Yeah, so that's the difference. The cheap business address is providing only the first and the last. Now, it provides things like the mail forwarding. You'll see that. So we forward the mail, which you would expect, and all the documentation, which we discussed. All right, sorry if I confused anyone on that. So you can see that so often entrepreneurs want to need funding, but they don't have a qualified business. So it doesn't matter how bad you want money or how badly you need money. Do we qualify? This is the checklist to have a credible business. It addresses the 3 C's, doesn't it? Just like we learned in 7th or 8th grade, right? Our business has to be creditworthy. So we add trade lines. So it is creditworthy. It has to have collateral. We add collateral. So it has that for funding. It needs to show that it's liquid, that it's not insolvent. We help liquidate the collateral to create liquidity. So this is it. This is it. All right. So then Trevor has a question on the business address. So we provide the address, a unique business address for free, and it doesn't expire. So that's really what he was asking. So it'll be a unique suite number that has never been used before, and typically wouldn't be used again. It's your address, your address. All right, so who else has questions over the relevance? Hopefully this is exciting, right? Because you have the recipe to help any entrepreneur raise a lot of capital, not by magic or wordsmithing, not by puffery or voodoo. It's by having a credible business. And there's a lot of people, you know this stuff. This is probably like preaching to the choir, but trust me, the average entrepreneur that's wanting and needing money doesn't have clarity of why can't I get approved? It's typically because they don't have a credible business. And so either they could enroll in this or just follow these steps, but this is the checklist. This is the checklist. Anyone else have questions, comments, concerns? Again, you can go to chapmanloanprogram.org or go back to whoever referred you. Chapman Loan Program, step 1, watch the little training video that's right here. And then step 2, click here to enroll. And I showed you what it looks like. It's this, right? There's no secrets. Everything's there and transparent. All right. So Misty has a follow-up question. Right. So she's asking a question. Well, what if the business is currently using a home address? Well, we've got a decision then. So certainly the address could be updated on that current entity. So that's correct. Now, it's a bit multifaceted though, isn't it? Because we need to update the address in a number of different places, because once you file an entity with the wrong address, the Dun & Bradstreet has the wrong address. Experian Business has the wrong address. Equifax Business probably has the wrong address. It's wrong lots of places, so it would require a fair amount of effort to fix it. So you could fix it, certainly, or it might be simpler just to hit the reset button, form a new entity using the package for the capital raise. But that's a decision that the individual client would make. And Misty, I think it comes down to, other than the address being off, what else does the company have in place? If they're in good standing with the Secretary of State, well, we need to consider that. Do they already have really strong business credit? Well, I mean, that's a pretty strong business then, just the address is off. So you might want to just plug them into the cheap business address. But what if they don't have collateral for funding? What if they don't have their financials prepared? Now, it might be a business, but it's not a very fundable business. It would probably be easier for them just to do this. But both options exist. So I'm not here to persuade you or anyone else. If all they want is the address and access to the Chapman Fund, great, cheap business address. If they want all the bullets, then it's the startup package, and that's a real easy way to understand it. Thank you, Misty, for that question. All right, well, we get together most weekday mornings at this time. We'll be back tomorrow morning. If you have questions, let us know. You can invite others. If you're one of our distribution partners, this is a great place for people to learn more about how it works, and you can follow up with your leads afterwards. If you're a prospective participant, either go back to whomever referred you, or if that's not the case, just come on over to chapmanloanprogram.org. I mean, this is certainty. There's no risk. This is proven. It's guaranteed. Why wouldn't you do it? Why wouldn't you do it? All right. Well, thanks, everyone. We'll see you back tomorrow morning. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.